Good morning, everyone.
Okay, are we ready?
Lydia, you're on mute, just so you know.
Yes, I'm unmuting. I have a 9:30 meeting every Friday, so I will be leaving, just so that you know that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we should begin, right?
Yes.
And people can just join. Good morning. Welcome to Latin America Caribbean's Committee's Immigration Spotlight. Immigration Spotlight is LACC's gathering twice a month where we spotlight the aspects of immigration, migrants, refugees, asylum seekers. And we are farm workers, people in detention prisons, and we also are so happy you're all here with us this morning. And before we begin, if we could all just take a moment of silence and pray for the migrants and their families who were killed in that terrible SUV accident in El Centro, California. The migrants who are still suffering because of the accident. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
This morning we have Paulina Olvera Canez. Paulina is one of the founders and director of Espacio Migrante. Espacio Migrante is a shelter and community organization on the Tijuana border. Tijuana is for those who don't know, is the city on our US border with San Diego and San Isidro. Paulina grew up in Baja California, went to the University of Baja California, and now is pursuing her master's at the University of San Diego. Now, Paulina, you take it away.
Thank you very much, Mary Jean, and good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for this space. Also, my colleague Josiane is on this call, and I think my colleague Kathy is also going to be joining us. So I'll share a little bit about our work in Tijuana, and then I'll also leave a space for Josiane to share a bit about her work with the African community. So I want to start by saying that Tijuana is a city of migrants because we're a border city. So it has always been a city that receives deportees and that receives people that are trying to get to the US. But I think before it used to be people staying for a couple of days and then either crossing to the US or people getting returned to Tijuana and going back to their city of origin. But more and more, as the border continues to become harder to cross because of different policies, many people end up staying in Tijuana for a longer time. So that has kind of changed the way that organizations have to work because now it's not only shelter and immediate needs for a couple of days, but families staying for a longer time. So since 2016, for example, Tijuana received a large Haitian migration. And for Espacio Migrante, that was the first time that we worked with another community that was not the usual migration from Mexico and Central America, but also the Haitian community ended up being stuck at the border. And there's a community, I can say, that lives in Tijuana since 2016. And we have been trying to support them with legal services and helping them in different things like access healthcare, education, and things like that. We started Espacio Migrante, we started as a group of young people and students in 2012. Like Mary Jean mentioned, I went to the University of Baja California. So some of the students or people who had recently graduated, we wanted to do something about migration, but we didn't know as students, what can we do? So that's how we started getting involved. And luckily, in 2019, we were able to get more funding and start our own shelter. So like Mary Jean mentioned, right now we have two parts of the project, or I can say three parts. One is a shelter for families, and these are mostly asylum seeking families that are in Tijuana waiting for their turn to cross to the US. The waiting time when we started used to be 2 or 3 months, but now because of different policies and, for example, the border has been closed since the pandemic, now there's families that have been at the shelter for over a year. And so the wait time is very long, and that also creates other issues like, for example, mental health, because people are so uncertain about what will happen to them. And so we try to support them as best we can, and also partner with other organizations that can support in different things like mental services. And we try to support, for example, for their children to go to school while they are in Tijuana, but it's difficult because Tijuana is not a safe city and it's not very welcoming for migrants, even though it's a city for migrants. But like I mentioned, it used to be just a city of passing through, and it's not a city that welcomes migrants to live there as residents and that respects their rights. And so we have the shelter. We also have a community center where we offer services and programs for migrants that don't live in shelters, because now there's also a large part of the migrants that don't live in shelters and that are renting on their own, working. And so we offer language classes, like Spanish classes, especially for the African and Haitian community, because they don't speak Spanish and they are trying to find work in Mexico. So one of the first things they need is the language tools. We also have a legal clinic, so an attorney that supports them if they want to seek asylum in Mexico, because some people do decide to, because they can't cross to the US and they have to wait for so long, some people decide to see Mexico as an option, but it's not for everybody, because some people or most people are still at risk in Mexico. And last year, because of the pandemic, we had to adapt and start working long distance, and it changed like all our work. So we continued with the shelter, but we had to close it for new families coming in. They had to quarantine before we could accept them. And we partnered with another organization that had capacity to quarantine them. But we stopped receiving volunteers. We stopped receiving a lot of support because we depend. So most of our funding comes from foundations, but also a lot from volunteers, especially from California. And so before the pandemic, a lot of groups would come and visit our community center and then make a small donation. So we stopped receiving that support, and also support from a lot of volunteers that would do activities. We also had to close the community center, but we continued most of our programs long distance. Like this, the Spanish classes are via Zoom. Like the legal clinic, she's just running it. The attorney's answering all the calls by phone, and all the appointments by video call. But we saw that there was a great need in the community because of the pandemic. And that's when we started our program called Comunidades, or communities. And this was to bring support to migrants outside of shelters that were struggling due to the pandemic. So it all started with two Haitian women that they used to come to our Spanish classes. And one day they came when the pandemic started, and they said, we need support to buy a sewing machine, because we got fired. They used to work at factory where they did sewing, and they lost their job. So they wanted a machine so they could have a job like in their home and make some money. And so we decided to ask them a couple of questions to see how they were doing. And we decided to create a questionnaire and to start calling all our contacts from the Spanish classes or the people that had participated with us to find out how the pandemic was impacting them. And then we started a food program for migrants that don't live in shelters. And the way that we did it was we would apply this questionnaire to identify which people had lost their job or were in a more vulnerable situation, like pregnant women, a lot of families too. And we received some funding, and we also did fundraising through social media. And the support that we gave them was through a card, which is like a gift card that they could use in the supermarket. And this card has about $150, and that's about an average that can support 3 people for a month. So a family of 3 for a month to buy food, and not to pay rent, but to buy food and basic things. And if we would see a larger family, we would give them 2 cards, because there's a lot of people that they get together, like 2 families or like seven people or 8 people, and they live together in a very small place. So depending on how many people, we would give them this card. And we thought this was the best way, because when we think about food support, maybe for Mexicans, it's gonna be like, we think about tortillas, tamales, and food like that. But we're also working with communities from African countries, from Caribbean, and so their diet is very different. And also we saw that some people might want to buy other things. Some people might want to buy food, but others might want to buy medicine or diapers. So we decided that the card was a good way. But we also, not all the time we were able to receive money for the card. So we also received in-kind donations, and we did a bit of both. When we didn't have cards, we would give people directly pantries. I don't know if that's the word. And I will let my colleague Josiane talk about her work, because she helped us so much in this program, especially to do outreach with the African community. And now she finally joined us as a full-time community organizer. And so I'll let her share about her work last year, and then I'll share a little bit more about what we are doing this year. So Josiane, please, if you want to share.
Good morning, everybody. Receive all of us my respect. Good morning. My name is Josiane Munkam. I am Cameroonian, Africa. Yes, I'm living in Mexico now is 2 years. Yeah. Also, I lived in Espacio Migrante more than 6 months. Yeah, and when I arrived here, Espacio Migrante received me. I slept on the streets many more time. I don't have food, I don't have nothing. Somebody show me Espacio Migrante. I go to Espacio Migrante receive me, take care of me, give me help, give me love, show me everything. Thank you. That is the little part of my story I want to begin to share. Yeah. Now, Espacio Migrante adopts me like a babies in the house, like a children. I'm comfortable. I not left my country because I want to work in or joy. I left my country because the war. Yeah, the military want to kill me because I see many things, many bad things. I am like a Tijuana, yeah. A lone woman, she see many war, many military kill the people. I prefer to save my life. I left my babies in my country. That is my little part of story. Yeah. Now I am an organizer, communitary in Espacio Migrante for the African people. My job is to have the contact with the African people. We have many African people here. It's no speak language. no have the papers to work, no have nothing. Many is dead in the house because it's not have the paper to go to the hospital, and the hospital refuse to treat us. That is the real problem we have now. The many sleep on the street because it's no one to sleep on the shelter. It's not to speak language. He said it's have the barrier. It's afraid. He said, I don't know, maybe I run my country, maybe that people want to give me to the American side. Yeah, the military of the African side. That is the thinking of the Africa. I'm sorry about that, but it's true. My program is, I work with Paulina, yes. We collect the done. We go, I'm cooking because we have the program one time per month. We cooking, maybe African food this month. Next month, Salvador food. Next month, Cuban food. We go and share with the migrant, all the migrants. We share the cover, blanket, food on the street all the time with the migrant. That is the work we make it. We try to give some food every 2 months, the card. That is the card. We save the name, save all the address, the migrant, go and try to see where is live. That is my job. I go everywhere, take the address and come and see. But it's too sad because one house, 2 room, we see you, I'm see 10, 15 people inside the house. No have a blanket, slept on the floor. In Tijuana, it's too cold. He slept on the floor, 15 people, because it's cannot pay rent. Espacio Migrante pay rent 3 months, 6 months to try to help us to grow up and share the food any 2 weeks. Come and share the food like that. That is my job. I do it any time. Please, I don't want to be long because I know you know the difficulty we have in Tijuana on the world for the African side, the Central Mexican, Central American. I don't want to be long. Please, I come to my voice to open my voice. Today I am a safe woman. I can call my children and speak with them. But I'm telling you the truth. If Espacio Migrante not take me, not take care of me, like a migrant, like a woman I like, I am an honest woman, but I'm slept on the floor, on the street. I can be like I don't want to call that name, but it's true. I can be a prostitute because I know how some food, some place to sleep, or I can be the smoke woman's drugger, but that house saved my life. I just want to say one thing, please. Help us to save another life, please. We want to save the life. Many women dead here in Africa because she's pregnant, she's not have money to go to the hospital. It's so sad for me because I am a woman. I know what is it. We need to help, to save, to comfortable, to make people secure, because I'm thinking that is one mission God gave us to make. Any people have the different mission. Another people is the church, another people is in the street. Us with the shelter. Yeah. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless you for everything we done, for everything you do for us. Thank you very much. Sorry, I don't want to take more of the time.
Josiane, for sharing. And we're very happy to have Josiane in our team because that has allowed us to build a little bit of trust with the African community and see what their needs are. And with our program, we we supported, last year we supported about 437, something like that, families and individuals with the cards. And we had people from Central America, South America, Haiti, and African countries. But the reason why we are trying to emphasize the situation of Africans is because we see that they are not connected to other, they don't have a support network in Tijuana. Like maybe other shelters are receiving Central Americans, Haitians, but even us, we have mostly Central American families because our shelter is only for families. And we can't receive single adults because of our bylaws, and most Africans are single adults. So we see that even though there's, for example, shelters or there's UN agencies in Tijuana, they have their own programs, but most programs don't include Africans. And Africans also experience racism in Tijuana. They are like Josiane mentioned, they are denied healthcare. They face, like, the police stops them all the time to ask for documents, and also the language barrier because they don't speak Spanish. So that's why we think that it's something that we want to do intentionally, to do more outreach with the African community. And the other thing that I want to mention is that since last year, we also started a campaign called Defend Asylum. And this is because the border has been, the border completely closed because of the pandemic. Um, but the message that we're trying to say is that asylum is essential because the border closed for non-essential travel, but we see that there's still tourists crossing back and forth. Even myself, I have dual citizenship, so I have the privilege that I can cross the border back and forth, but people that whose lives are at risk, they can't cross the border to seek safety. So that's why we started this campaign. And it actually started from another city in Nogales, from Nogales, with some organizations there like Kino Border Initiative and other organizations. They started the campaign, and then they invited Tijuana and San Diego to do the same. So we did an action at the border in October, and we wanted to continue to do actions, but the pandemic is hitting really hard in Tijuana. We actually had a COVID outbreak in our shelter in December. Luckily, and we had no cases that needed to go to the hospital, and everybody is safe now. But we saw that we couldn't do a lot of in-person actions, but we started doing virtual actions. So, for example, tomorrow we have a forum that is asylum. 8 asylum seekers from different border cities are going to share their testimonies, and you are invited. I will send the information to Mary Jean. And we have been doing these types of things like press conferences and videos and trying to get asylum seekers to have a platform to share their stories and say what their demands are. And now, as you might have heard, since February 19th, the Biden administration started slowly opening the border again, but it's only for a certain group of people that were in a program called MPP, or Remain in Mexico, which is a program that meant that after the long waiting time in Tijuana, people went into the US and they were returned to Mexico to carry out their whole asylum process in Mexico. So that program was called MPP, but it was only for Latin American migrants, so only for Spanish speaking countries. And now they are eliminating this program and slowly allowing the people in that program to go into the US. And so that's a great thing, and we're very happy for that. But we also see that it's not enough because there's thousands of people that were not in that program, but that are still in danger. And for example, that this solution of eliminating MPP doesn't include a solution for Africans and Haitians. And a lot of Africans and Haitians have been in Tijuana for 2 years, or for Haitians even longer. So we are celebrating about MPP, but we're still saying there's still a lot more people that are not safe. And the other thing is that when this process started, with the people in MPP crossing on February 19th, there was no information for asylum seekers in general. So a lot of people, there's a lot of rumors, and a lot of migrants decided to go to the port of entry to wait to see if there's a solution or if they will be allowed in. Unfortunately, we know that they're not going to be allowed in because they're not in this program. But people don't lose hope. And also they hear so many rumors, so they don't lose hope, and they're camping at the port of entry. So what we have been doing as organizations is bringing information. So trying to get information from attorneys in the US, printing out information in different languages, because we have Spanish speakers, French speakers, Haitian Creole speakers. So we try to pass out flyers, give information, and we're trying to offer people the option of going to a shelter. But it's a difficult situation. People also need humanitarian help, people that are camping there at the port of entry. And so that's what we have been doing the last couple of weeks, trying to go to the port of entry to provide information and warn people of the dangers of being there at that camp, and trying to, when we see a vulnerable case, to connect them with attorneys and things like that. So that's basically what we have been doing. But what we want to do is to create a support program for asylum seekers that are waiting in Tijuana, and especially for the food situation, because we see that it's the most immediate need, even though it's not the only thing, but we see that it's the basic need that needs to be addressed. So I will stop now to see if you have any questions or anything else, any comments or anything that you would like to hear from Josiane or myself. And again, thank you very much for this space.
Thanks, Paulina. Now, if anyone has questions for Paulina or Josiane, just raise your hand. And I think Rosa is going to help figure that out.
Can I start with the first one?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Thank you so much for speaking today. That was really powerful to hear the experience that you've had in Tijuana and the work that you're doing. I'm curious how you get the word out to migrants about your work and about getting emergency food. I'm trying to visualize what it looks like in Tijuana. Are people in sort of centralized camps throughout the city? Are people sleeping one by one around town? How do you reach people and give your services?
Thank you, Molly. So we do it through community organizers. So we have two community organizers. So one is Josiane. She's our contact with the African community. And our other organizer is Catherine. She's a Salvadorian woman, and she's in contact with the Spanish-speaking community. So we divided by languages because Josiane speaks English and French, so she can also communicate with that community. But so let me go back a little bit. So before 2016, which is when Haitians arrived, a large Haitian migration arrived, there used to be in Tijuana about 8 shelters, mostly run by the Catholic Church or Christian churches, and some also just community organizations as well. And they have been doing this work for 30 years, and they do an amazing work. But when Haitians arrived, it wasn't enough because there was so many people that all the shelters were overcrowded. And so a lot of new shelters opened. So we went, in 2016, we went from having 8 shelters to having 38 shelters in Tijuana. And they were all over the city. Even in, most of the first shelters were in Centro, which is very close to the border. It's like downtown, but it's close to the US border. But when Haitians arrived, because there was a great need, new shelters opened all over the city. So even in outskirts of the city, and a lot of those shelters closed after because they only attended the emergency, and also because the government didn't help. So they were left with huge light bills and huge debt. But some still remained, like there's one called Embajadores de Jesus, which is a Christian church, and it has space for about 400 people. So they're a very big temple, and they are still there, and there's many all throughout the city. But a lot of migrants that arrived to Tijuana, for example, in 2016 and in these years, some of them got jobs, or most of them got jobs, and were able to start working and maybe rent a room. And sometimes they rented a room near the shelter where they started. So we saw that migrants started settling like all over the city. And what I thought it was beautiful too is that some churches, even though they're not shelters anymore, but they started offering a service in Creole, in Haitian Creole. So it's still a place where migrants go to to pray and to find community, right? And Espacio Migrante, we opened our shelter. So there was another thing after the Haitians arrived. In 2018, there was the caravans from Central America. And again, that also made new shelters open up and new projects to start. And so we saw some shelters open up, and like Espacio Migrante as well. But we see that we have the shelter, but we see that there's also a large population that doesn't live in shelters. And even some people is because they decided to settle in Tijuana because they saw no option to cross to the US, or they fear that if they cross to the US, they will get deported, especially during the Trump administration. And others maybe are still waiting for asylum, but the wait time has become very long. So they might have got a job in Mexico and start working and rent their own room. So that's why it became harder to do the outreach. And it depends by each community. For example, the Haitian community, they're a very close community. So they communicate, they even have a community radio. So they have a Facebook page that is called Radio Haitiano en Tijuana. So we know, for example, if we share things with the Haitian community, they might spread the word, right? But for other communities, maybe it's not the same because they're afraid and they don't. For example, I was speaking with one of my team members who is Salvadorian, and he said, when I see other Salvadorians, uh, I don't feel immediately like I ask them, oh, where are you from? I'm from El Salvador too, because I'm afraid that it might be somebody related to the people that are trying to hurt me. And he said, maybe after a while, after the conversation, I'll open up, and if it's safe, I'll say that, oh, me too, I'm from El Salvador. But that's another issue that a lot of people are living each on their own, and it's hard sometimes to build community because people are so afraid. And Josiane can share the same with Africans too. But to not take too long, the way that we have found that we can do it is through community organizers, because they are the ones who know their community. So Josiane has explained to me a lot of things that I didn't know about Africans, that, oh, people are like this because they're afraid and they don't trust. And so she helps me to understand this, because we can have some solutions, but we don't understand the context. So that's why we work with community organizers. And we want to have a Haitian community organizer as well, because those are like the three communities that we work with: Central and South American, African, and Haitian. But for right now, we're working with Haitian volunteers to help us to make phone calls and to do outreach. And so that's how we get out to the community. And I guess also because we're located in Centro, near the border, a lot of people also come word by word, and they show up at our place. And sorry, I saw that somebody else was raising their hand, but
No,
I didn't see her.
go ahead, Paulina. It's not that, I think that someone had to leave early and so they were saying goodbye. But thank you so much for that. Do we have any other questions or comments? If not, okay, Sally, and then Rox. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Rosa. Paulina, I am so touched by your story, and I am especially just astounded at the extent of your work, how many different ways you support these various communities there in Tijuana. And I'm interested, can you give us some data to help us get a sense of the size and the scope of your work there? You mentioned $150 cards that you give out to families for 1 month. How many families are you supporting in that way? And do you do this month after month after month with those cards? And if so, you must have a need for a continual income stream to support this work.
Thank you, Sally. So our first needs for the organization is the rent, because we have a large building in Tijuana where we have the shelter and the community center and the offices, but it's not ours, so we pay monthly rent and it's expensive for Tijuana. It's about $2,500, $2,500. For Tijuana, it's very expensive. But it's for the US, maybe not, because it's a big building. And then we also have staff. We have 7 people on staff. So I'm the director. We have an administrator that is in charge of all the financial and like you say, keeping the lights on. So paying all the things and doing the administrative things. We have a shelter coordinator that is in charge of also seeing the needs of the shelter and also talking to the people to see their needs. A lot of people in the shelter might need medical attention, so this person tries to connect them with a doctor or be attentive to their needs. We have a coordinator for the community center that is in charge of the language programs, the workshops that we have, and we have 2 community organizers, Josiane and Catherine. And the food program, the Comunidades program that I mentioned, we started it last year, and we were able to support 450 people, but it wasn't something that we did like month by month. These people, some received 1 card, some were able to receive 2, and then we also gave them pantries. And the good thing about it is also that through the conversations we had with them, we gave them the card, but they also told us sometimes like, oh, I'm looking for a clinic. So we actually also share a space. The building we shared with another great organization called Refugee Health Alliance. And it's a group of doctors from San Diego, but they're based in Tijuana. So when somebody needs medical attention, we tell them about that clinic, or if they need to learn Spanish, we connect them with our program. So we try to provide support in other ways, but we would love to do it month by month, but we haven't found resources to do it. The main donor for this program was IOM, which is International Organization for Migrations, which is a UN agency. I think maybe 50% of the cards we gave were from the UN, and that was for 2 months. And then the rest we were able to get from different organizations like Border Angels, Haitian Bridge Alliance, Al Otro Lado, and then we started a social media campaign, and we got some funding like that too. But for this year, we don't really have a budget to continue. What we do have is we're still receiving in-kind donations, so we have been giving pantry directly. But we're trying to, for example, we had a meeting with Black Lives Matter in San Diego, and we said, there's Africans here. How can we get you to raise this issue? And they were very happy to hear about this, and they're gonna help us to raise awareness in San Diego, because we don't have as much capacity to do fundraising in Tijuana, but more on the US side. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
What's your capacity at your shelter? How many families can stay with you?
So we have capacity for 40 people at the same time. In 2019, we had about 205 people. And last year we had less, about 100 people, but because there was no movement, because the border was closed, it was almost the same families for a long time.
Yeah.
And now actually a lot of the families are crossing because of the MPP. So now we're going to start receiving new families right now. Actually, right now we have like only 7 people. Last week, a lot of families left, but we're starting to receive new families. It never stays empty because there's always new families coming in.
Paulina, what like the families that left, they were able to walk us through that. So what did they do? They crossed the border and then what?
And let me just take Rox's question as well.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No.
Together, if you want,
Okay,
so that she can
I had a couple
respond.
questions. One was about the money card, and if there's a place, I see that as something that people went, oh yes, I can do this, I can, donate this card, this kind of concreteness about it. If there's a way to do that on your website, which I haven't looked at too much. And also, do you see, you talked a little bit about racism around the different countries. Are you also seeing folks that are in the LGBTQ and trans community coming through? So those 2 questions, and then Mary Jean, go ahead.
I'm done. I mean, just do that, Paulina, and then walk us through what happens to people.
I'm writing down so I don't forget. So yes, we are working with the issue of racism. It's something that we have tried to raise awareness because in Mexico, it's not a conversation that is usual. Like in Mexico, nobody even talks about race or racism. There's the idea or the myth that there's no racism in Mexico, but in reality, it's like making invisible the fact that there's even the fact that there's Afro-Mexicans in Mexico. It was only recently acknowledged by the Mexican government. And so we're trying to raise awareness. There was a lot of support for Haitian and African communities when they arrived to Tijuana. I have to say that there was a lot of solidarity from Mexicans. But that doesn't mean that there's no racism because Black people in Tijuana find racism every day, like when they get stopped by the police or when they get denied healthcare, or even people that when they try to rent an apartment, they will say, oh yes, it's available. And then when they show up in person, they will get told, oh no, like we don't rent to, I had an example, my friend Catherine, she's from El Salvador and she went with a Haitian friend to look for an apartment. They were going to rent it to her, but when they found that it was for him, they said, oh, we don't rent it to foreigners. And she said, but I'm Salvadorian. And they said, oh, yes, sorry, but we can't rent it. So we know that it's racism, but nobody wants to say it. So we have tried to raise awareness. That's why we also are working with Black Lives Matter San Diego. We did an action last year in June that Josiane also helped us a lot to organize and get Africans participating. And about the LGBTQ community, I have to say that before in Tijuana, there was no safe shelter for the LGBTQ community. And even when there were some religious shelters, sometimes LGBTQ or especially trans migrants would suffer discrimination at some shelters. But luckily, in 2018, in 2019, the same month when Espacio Migrante started, here's my son.
Oh, hola.
And my dog, sorry.
Your dog.
New puppy.
Oh.
That was a question that I was going to pose about issues of racism, because I mean I have some family living in Tijuana and lots in San Diego, and I had heard about the large number of Haitian population. I hadn't heard yet about the African population, but I mean I heard it from my family. It's not out there much in the news. Certainly none that I have seen way over here in New York where I am, but I just wanted to ask Josiane if, how the community comes together in solidarity and how you face some of this racism. I'm of Mexican origin myself. So, I mean, I know that exists within Mexico. So let's pose that question to you, give you a chance, and then we'll come back. And what we usually do during these immigration spotlights is we have one action that we ask of the participants to do. And that will come right after, and it relates to that question about the support, the funding. So thank you. Unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead, Josiane.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, I want to share a little bit about the racism in Tijuana, because in Espacio Migrante, we create one group. That group WhatsApp is African, only African. Yeah, because I want to make the African people comfortable and secure, because we are is too afraid, a lot afraid. Me too, I have many more problems with discrimination, with racist. Yes, because when I arrived in Mexico, I tried to make something to work. Many people refuse me work. Front of me, one man in Mexican man tell is to wife, why do you let black woman touch my door? Why do you let black woman knock my door? Because she want to work. Because that man work a cleaner woman. I need a cleaner in the house. I tell to that man, I can clean. I am a clean woman. I am an honest woman, please. I need just to work. But that man insults me. That man tell me, I never work with a black woman. Ningún trabajo con una negra. No quiere la negra a mi casa. Call a wife, said, if you let the black woman touch my door again or come here to ask the work, you have a problem with me. That is the little bit. I am a nurse. I call someday because I see the publication. We need the woman, she wants to work in the house to take care of another woman. I call that woman, I speak with her. She said, okay, good. But when she's no, I am a black, she called me, oh, I'm sorry, I cannot work with a stranger woman. I said, what? Why do you call me stranger? You need my professionalism, or you want to know if I am stranger or not? I have a papers. I am honest, I am a clean, I know my job. Try to test me, I need that job, please. I don't have money, please, I need that job. She said, no, you are a stranger. I said, please tell me to, because I am a black, or I don't know, or I'm not a Mexican. She said, I don't want to speak something with you like that, but I'm telling you, you are a stranger. I said, okay. In Europe, many African lost his job and then a pandemic. Why? Ask me why. Because the boss come one day, said, we have a pandemic, we cannot continue to work with every people. We want to choose the professional, more than another one. Yeah, I want to choose. He said, okay, boss, please choose me. Everybody said, choose me. But it's going, the work, remove 20 black, all the black people. Left the new guys is come in the work 2 weeks ago, but remove all the black is spent 6 months, 1 year, 8 months in the work. All the black is fired. That I have many story. I understand many story. The problem is the African refuse to trust the people, because many people come like an angel, try to say, why is your problem? Why do you run? Why do you left your country. He tried to explain. He said, no, I cannot share your story in the media or something like that. He's share his story, is make like a confession, is explain his story. But do you think what? Morning, early morning, he see his face and story in Google, news Google. That is the reason African afraid to have a conference with somebody, faithful somebody. Yes, he's so afraid, I'm telling you the truth. Many try to cross the border, deport. We deport 300 Cameroonian and 3 parts, 18, 115, something like that. I want to tell you the truth. I'm still here, I'm very sad. I'm trying to go. I'm not tell to Paulina, I'm not tell to nobody because my children suffer too much. My children don't have money, don't have food in Africa. I'm divorced with someone is not take care of my children. My mother, my grandmother, she's blind because I'm offline. She's take care of my children, but she's blind. I'm said, I want to make some place secure. I want to maybe back to school, maybe do work because I'm not working here. I'm not saying nothing. I'm trying to go. Yes, I'm cross the guide in America. I'm trying. Maybe by my life, you are not on this, you cannot imagine how it's too high, but I'm trying and cross that guide. When I'm arriving in America, ask me, why do you do to come here? Why do you come in my country? It back me here. I have a look because it's not deport me. Many Africans try to do that because it's so desperate. No have work, no have food. The rent is too expensive here, too expensive. The discrimination. Many girls told me where I'm going to share the cat in the house, told me I tried to find work, but I not see. It proposed me, the boss proposed me to sleep with him every two times per week. He gave me 500 pesos per every time we make that sex. Anybody propose me like that? When I'm starting to work with some man or woman, she want to make sex with me. If I want to continue to work and rest in my work, I need to make sex. And tell her I'm no, because I passed for that route. I know. Find another work. She said it's not possible. I know one African, she told me, I cannot leave my work. I want to make it. I want to make sex with my boss because I cannot leave my work. That work is too important for me. I feed my children with that work. If I leave my work, I can do how? Yes, she work with somebody, is not pay him good, but it's take his body too. Why?
Because he can.
Thank you, Lucian.
Yes, I pass in the route here many more years plus because I'm not understand Spanish. I'm not here Spanish. Thank you at Espacio Migrante because I'm go to school. I learn Spanish too. Yes, I'm continue to learning. Many man told me, hola, cuánto? You cannot believe. Think cuánto is, hey, how are you? How are you feel? I say, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, hello. I'm so happy because I know the people treat me respectful. I'm so happy. Hey, cuánto? Hola, chica, cuánto? Hey, how are you? Hello. No. One girl told me, black girl, because she understands well Spanish more than me. What is telling? He call you cuánto? You are so happy. What? You are crazy. I said, no, it's great me. She said, what? Great you? She asks you how much you sell your body. I said, what?
Oh my God.
I said, what? Say yes. How much you sell your body? Is not happy with you, but it's asks you. You're walking like that, but it asks you how much you say your body. Why is not ask you with that white woman is passed in front of him? Why is come and ask you? No laugh with him. It's not serious. ¿Cuánto? Yeah.
Josiane,
Thank you.
thank you. And I hate to interrupt because I think you're bringing up so many different dimensions about living at the border, living in asylum. So forgive me for interrupting that. But we are coming to a close, and I just want to make this very important announcement about our action. Our action for today is, and I'll just share my screen with you, is asking for those who are on our immigration spotlight to donate to Espacio Migrante. What we've been doing is asking those who are able to do so to support an organization from the stimulus checks, because we know that some migrants and immigrants, even in the US, cannot receive some of these funds. So we're asking for the funds to be donated to Espacio Migrante. And someone asked about any way to be able to support them. And this is their support page. They have a PayPal link. So for those who want to donate and can donate as part of your stimulus checks or from your other income, we ask you to do that as an action. And we will be sending that out as well to others, because we value your work, and we're really so grateful that you were able to join us today. So I am gonna hand it back to Mary Jean to close us out. Thank you.
Paulina, also, and maybe Rosa could put this in the chat or in the action, that if people don't have PayPal, they can donate to Espacio Migrante in the US, right? There's an office in San Isidro. Okay. And Paulina, if you could put on in the chat the forum for tomorrow, and then we'll get that out also. Thank you so much, Paulina and Josine. It was just wonderful. And we will be in touch for sure. What else? Anything else? And this
Just
is
to announce the next immigration spotlight is on March 19th, Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern.
I just want to call attention to the fact that our friend Kitty in Nicaragua has joined us, and she just put in the chat her gratitude, sending gratitude from Nicaragua. Thank you, Kitty. Glad you were able to join.
Thank you. There's a lot of Nicaraguenses also here in Tijuana as well. But thank you very much for your support. And for people that don't have PayPal, they can write a check to Espacio Migrante and send it to our address. I don't know if I can put it here in the chat, the address. And then again, the invitation for tomorrow, if you want to hear directly from Josiane, will be participating, and other asylum seekers as well. And it's going to be by Zoom, and we have interpretation. So some asylum seekers will be speaking in Spanish or French, but you can hear it in English. So, but I can't find it right now. Can I email it to Mary Jean?
Yes.
Because I don't have it at this.
Okay, That's okay.
Wait, I think,
Paulina, could I ask you a quick question? You mentioned that Sharing Your Building in Tijuana is an organization that provides medical services.
yes,
I assume you work rather closely with them.
yes.
Do they receive volunteers for, like, a week or 2 weeks at a time to come and assist?
So I know that before the pandemic, they always received like a large group of volunteers. I don't know how they are doing it during the pandemic. I know they're very active, but I don't know how they are working. But I can also share their contact with Mary Jean in the
Good.
same email. And if you want to reach out to them. And I also put here, Casa Arcoiris is the one shelter that is working with LGBTQ population. So I'll also share that. I can send Mary Jane an email with all the information and the
Right.
flyer for tomorrow.
That's great.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just mention, I have a great nephew who is completing his first year of medical school. He's getting married in June, and his fiance is also completing her first year of medical school. And if they're looking for a place to spend a honeymoon, perhaps they could volunteer their services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you all for joining today.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye.
We'll be
Thank you.
in touch.
Thank you, Paulina, Josiane.
God
Thank you
bless
so
Thank
much.
you, Josiane.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you, Pat. Thank you, Marcella. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, events. Stop recording.